Welcome back, everyone, to the Bitcoin Business Bureau. I'm your host, as always, LitecoinLeader. Today, we're going to talk about a particular interesting topic for a lot of more advanced or seasoned people in cryptocurrency, but it's really applicable to everyone. So what we're going to talk about is over-the-counter trade desks. And first of all, I want to explain what that is. And I'm just going to give you a couple of reasons why you may be interested in getting at least one set up for you, if not more. First off, none of this video it contains any financial advice. I am not a financial advisor. I'm not a tax advisor. I'm just a guy talking on the internet. So do your own research. So let's get that out of the way. But just going to do a straight monologue about over-the-counter trade desks, and I'll give you a recommendation later on. First off, what is an over-the-counter trade desk? That's a good question. An over-the-counter trade desk is basically an entity or a company that allows you to trade cryptocurrencies that are not through a centralized exchange like a Coinbase, a Gemini, a Binance US, a Kraken, those types of sites. So typically what they're used for is for whales or for large corporate or large investor type transactions. And the idea is that if you want to buy 100 Bitcoin or more, just picking a number, but it's a large number, you don't want to go into Coinbase or Kraken or Gemini and move the price of Bitcoin by putting in such a large order. Because if you bought up 100 Bitcoin all at once, you'd move the price. So what you rather would do, you call up an over-the-counter and just say, hey, I'm interested in acquiring 100 Bitcoin. Give me a quote and let's do the transaction. I'll wire you the money and you can send the Bitcoin to my address. That is over-the-counter. It's not through the exchange. So the exchange doesn't see that transaction. But you may agree to the price with the over-the-counter. Typically, that price is higher than the market price, similar when you go to a Bitcoin ATM for the convenience. Now, the convenience, it's not going to be as high as an ATM. An over-the-counter might charge 3 or 4, maybe 5% more above the existing price because of the convenience, because you're not moving the market, though. You like say, yes, absolutely. Because if you were, let's say Bitcoin's price is $44,000. If you called up and said, if you went onto Coinbase and tried to buy 1,000 Bitcoin, you'd probably move the price so much, it'd be well over $50,000 before you're even done. But if you call up an over-the-counter trade desk and say, I want to buy 100 Bitcoin, and they might quote you a price of 45 or 46,000 for the whole thing, and you'll say yes, because it's going to be cheaper than doing it the other way. And plus, it's a simpler transaction. You have more control. This is about financial freedom and control. And third-party risk, counter risk. Counterparty risk is where you have another entity that could control your funds and mess things up for you. So, for example, if you transferred funds over to Coinbase and they failed to execute the transaction as you suggested, or if they messed up an address or whatever, they should be held liable, but typically their accountability is lacking. So, to avoid that possibility and if you want to move. If you want to do transactions over the counter, typically in the past, they've been for large transactions, but there are some over the counters, like at Caleb and Brown in Australia, that will do a couple $1,000s of a transaction. Now, some people are not looking are looking for alternatives to Caleb and Brown, and I'm going to present one later in this video, and I'll tag it right down here as an affiliation that I have. That I found it's a stateside company that's available in 43 of the 50 US states that they can do transactions 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, over the counter. Same terms and rates as Caleb and Brown. I'll go into that in a minute. But first, why do you want it over the counter? First off, as I said before, control. You have total control over the transaction. You're calling up the trade desk. You're saying, this is what I want. I'm going to wire you the money, wire the money to the account. You do the transaction, you'll send me the coins, and then that's it. That you have your coins and you basically control the transaction. The only part where you're doing is the execution is done by the trade desk. So there are multiple versions of trade desks out there. Most of them require a large amount of volume or a large sum of money to do a transaction. Typically, it's $50,000 right now, and sometimes they're 100,000 or more. That's what been part of the attractiveness for the newer investor that wants to use an over-the-counter. Caleb and Brown has been the answer. Well, I found alternatives to that that have minimums of just a $2,000 trade. But that's the first reason you want over-the-counter is that you want control. Secondly, as I mentioned briefly in the first description, you can do it with fiat. You can wire fiat money to them, they will turn it into a crypto and then send it to your address. So it's one way. They can also do the reverse process as well. If you have a coin you want to sell and want to cash out into US dollars, they can do that as well. Or you could swap it to another coin, like to USDC or Bitcoin for Litecoin. They can do that sort of thing too. So there's that convenience factor. Another one that's important is the KYC is usually pretty easy to get done. It doesn't take that long to get done. Usually just a phone number, driver's license, that sort of thing, just a basic level of KYC, and then you're ready to go. As far as the cost of the fees are usually 5% or less. The one I'm going to recommend is 3.5%, much like the recommendation that people give for Caleb and Brown. And then there's the custodian issue. The custodian issue of like when you turn your money over to like a Coinbase, you're losing control of that money, and so you pull it back out. This, you're in and out in less than 48 hours. So there's the time factor too. So you can have the trade done very quickly and be in and out of the market and have the coins that you want in your wallet, and you're done. One last thing I pointed out, which I learned for a client yesterday, was that some coins are not available on Coinbase or even at Caleb and Brown, but other over-the-counters might have them. For example, a privacy coin is not available by Caleb and Brown, I learned, but it was available through the one I'm about to recommend, which is cointradingdesk.com or Coin Trading Company. I'm sorry, cointradingcompany.com. Coin Trading Co. is what their website is. So I've talked to the owners of that site. I've used them twice. It's a very easy transaction. You just wire them the money, follow wire instructions very carefully. I would recommend going into the bank because there's certain things you have to put on the wire. But I did it through a very large American bank. You can piece the words together there to figure out what bank that was. And I did the wire, and because it says coin trading, you could say I'm investing in coins. So I would recommend having an over-the-counter because you can get coins you can't get elsewhere. You can get them quickly, you can get them easily, and you can get them in and out of fiat. So that 3.5%, it's more of a convenience fee. When you walk into a 7-Eleven or a Wawa or a Quickmart or a Quick Trip, whatever, and get a drink or something to eat, you're not paying the best price, but you're in and out of the store in about 5 minutes most of the time. So the convenience is what you're paying for. Well, that's the same thing with an over-the-counter. You're paying for convenience. So while pro.coinbase.com may offer you a better transaction fee, the control factor and the fact that you're dealing with Coinbase is another reason to say, maybe I'll use that over-the-counter. So plus you can get a coin you may not be able to get somewhere else. So all those things are very important things to know about. So as I talked about with a lot of people that are getting into crypto, you need to have multiple bridges between the fiat and the crypto world, because you never know when one of them is going to wash out or you lose control of them, or they put KYC or AML, which is anti-money laundering laws. Tough to say. That's why I say AML. But you put the anti-money laundering laws in place, and they may hold your funds for a couple months. So Aber just did that last year, where if you put the fiat deposit, you got to maintain a certain level for 60 days before you can withdraw it. That's something important to know as well. Over the counter, you don't have that problem. They just say, hey, if I go to Coin Trading Company, cointradingco.com, again, I'll put the link down here, and please use my referral link because you could get 3.5% for the transaction fee. And then, they're open from 9 to 5, Monday through Friday on the East Coast time. And you could do it by email, or you could do it by texting. And the trade's done in a matter of hours, a day max, and the coins are in your wallet. So the hardest part is actually going to the bank and getting the wire done. And when you get the wire done, then you get a text from Jesse or Glenn, and they'll say, hey, we received your money. What do you want us to buy? And you tell them, I want you to buy this coin. And they say, here's your quote. You say yes. You say, yeah. I say yes. And they say, okay, we're going to send you those amount of coins. Just give us the address. They give them the address of the wallet, and the coins appear, and you're done. Over-the-counter trade is executed. Couldn't be easier. So it's something worthwhile to put in your portfolio of tools to use for crypto. It's definitely one to add and one to have, especially considering all the different litigation and laws and restrictions that are being placed on a lot of different crypto type things right now. So I really recommend getting an over-the-counter desk and getting one set up. I would recommend getting Caleb and Brown set up too. I think that having both of them as an option is great, but I think you know which one I prefer. So Coin Trading Company, again, the link is going to be at the bottom here, probably throughout the entire video. Use the affiliation link that I have. Like I said, I don't affiliate with anyone that I don't use personally. I've used them twice. They're great guys. I've even introduced them to ProBitcoinSolutions if for any errors that may happen, so they can recover the coins. So it's a good company. It's a smaller company, but they're focused on the client, which I like. So there's a lot of reasons to use over the counters. Again, convenience, coins you can't get elsewhere. Just total control over it, not having to deal with Coinbase or where's my coins, what's happening, 7-day restrictions of getting your coins out. None of that nonsense is there. Use an over the counter, use them once, just try it out, just so you know it works, and then you get familiar with the process. So it's well worth the exercise. It's worth adding it to your bag of tricks for getting it, from fiat to crypto. And I highly recommend it. So with all that said, I'm going to close the drawer on the bureau, and I'll see you next time.